History remembers empires that shook the world: Rome with its legions, China with its dynasties, and Europe with its kings and queens. But far to the west of Africa, in the savannas and forests of present-day Nigeria, there rose an empire that rivaled them in wealth, power, and organization. It was the Oyo Empire, one of the greatest pre-colonial African states, whose rulers Alaafin commanded both fear and respect across centuries. The Oyo Empire was more than just a kingdom. It was a sophisticated system of politics, military might, and trade. Its rulers stood as symbols of divine power, but they were not unchecked tyrants. They operated within a structure of checks and balances that gave the empire strength, resilience, and longevity. This is the story of the Oyo Empire and the Alaafin's power saga of warriors, kings, intrigue, expansion, and the enduring spirit of the Yoruba people. Origins of the Oyo Empire. The Yoruba people traced their history back to the city of Alaafin, considered the spiritual heartland of Yoruba civilization. According to legend, Alaafin was the cradle of creation, where the god Oduduwa descended to found the Yoruba nation. From this sacred city, rulers spread out to establish kingdoms, each tracing their authority back to Oduduwa himself. Among these kingdoms, Oyo rose to prominence. Its origins are believed to date back to the late 14th century, though its golden age came later in the 17th and 18th centuries. The founders of Oyo settled in the Savannah region, where they built a city-state that gradually grew into an empire through trade, diplomacy, and conquest. Oyo's strategic location was crucial. Nestled between the forest and savanna, it became a bridge between the agricultural riches of the south and the trade routes leading north across the Sahara. This allowed Oyo to become wealthy and powerful, supplying goods like kola nuts, ivory, and eventually slaves, while importing horses, textiles, and firearms. The Alaafin, the divine king. At the heart of the Oyo Empire was the Alaafin, the king who ruled with both political and spiritual authority. The title, Alaafin, means owner of the palace, but his role was much more than ceremonial. The Alaafin was believed to be chosen by the gods themselves, a semi-divine ruler who represented the will of the deities on earth. He was the ultimate authority in the empire, the commander of armies, the head of religion, and the final judge in legal matters. His palace was not just a residence but a center of power, filled with courtiers, warriors, priests, and advisors. Yet, the Alaafin was no dictator. His power came with responsibilities, and if he failed, he could be removed or even forced to commit ritual suicide. This delicate balance made Oyo's governance unique, a mixture of divine kingship and institutional checks. The Oyo Messi. Balancing the king's power, the Alaafin ruled, but he did not rule alone. He was balanced by the Oyo Messi, a council of 7 principal nobles who served as kingmakers and advisors, led by the Basharoon, the prime minister. The Oyo Messi could check the Alaafin's power if he became tyrannical or unfit. If the Alaafin lost the confidence of the Oyo Messi, they would present him with an empty calabash or parrot, a symbolic message that he must take his own life. In this way, the Alaafin's authority was both immense and fragile. He could command armies and shape policy, but he could never forget that his legitimacy depended on his people and their institutions. This balance of power made Oyo one of the most stable political systems in Africa at the time. Unlike many empires, where absolute rulers plunged their states into chaos, Oyo's structure helped it endure internal crises and remain cohesive for centuries. Military power. The cavalry empire, one of Oyo's greatest strengths, was its military, especially its cavalry. While many Yoruba kingdoms were forest-bound and lacked access to horses, Oyo's savanna environment allowed it to breed and use cavalry effectively. Horses were imported through trade with the north, and Oyo developed a fearsome cavalry force that became the backbone of its expansion. The Oyo army was divided into professional units, with generals leading contingents of cavalry and infantry. Their tactics combined speed, discipline, and the psychological effect of thundering horsemen charging across the battlefield. Through its cavalry, Oyo conquered neighboring states, expanded its borders, and imposed tribute on surrounding regions. From the forest kingdoms of the south to the Niger River to the north, Oyo's armies struck fear into their enemies. Trade and wealth. Oyo's wealth was built on trade. Sitting at the crossroads of regional and trans-Saharan networks, the empire became a hub for goods moving across West Africa. From the forests came kola nuts, palm oil, and ivory. From the north came horses, salt, and later firearms. Oyo also became deeply involved in the transatlantic slave trade, supplying captives to European traders along the coast. While tragic, this involvement brought immense wealth and political influence to the Alaafin and his court. Markets flourished across the empire. Towns like Oyo, the capital, bustled with merchants, artisans, and farmers. The Alaafin's court collected tribute, taxes, and trade levies, ensuring a steady flow of riches into the palace. Religion and culture, Oyo was not just a political empire, it was also a cultural powerhouse. The Yoruba religion, rich with gods known as Orisia, played a central role in daily life. The Alaafin himself was considered the chief priest of the empire, performing rituals to ensure the prosperity of the land. Festivals and ceremonies marked the calendar, blending politics and religion into a seamless whole. Drumming, dancing, and masquerades brought communities together, reinforcing loyalty to the Alaafin and the empire. The empire also fostered art and architecture. Palaces, shrines, and marketplaces displayed the wealth and skill of Yoruba craftsmen. Intricate beadwork, bronze casting, and wood carving flourished, leaving a legacy that endures today. Expansion and influence at its height in the 17th and 18th centuries. The Oyo Empire stretched across a vast territory. It dominated much of present-day southwestern Nigeria, parts of Benin, and even reached into Togo. Vassal states paid tribute to Oyo, sending goods and captives as symbols of their submission. In return, Oyo provided protection, stability, and access to trade networks. The empire's influence extended far beyond its borders, shaping politics and culture across West Africa. Oyo also developed a unique system of indirect rule. Instead of micromanaging distant territories, it allowed local rulers to govern themselves as long as they recognized the supremacy of the Alaafin and paid tribute. This flexible approach allowed the empire to expand without overstretching its resources. The decline of Oyo Empire lasts forever. By the late 18th and early 19th centuries, cracks began to appear in Oyo's foundation. Several factors contributed to its decline. Internal strife, rivalries within the royal court and between the Alaafin and the Oyo Messi weakened unity. Slave trade pressures. Dependence on the transatlantic slave trade destabilized the economy and fueled conflict. Fulani Jihad. The rise of the Fulani Jihad states in the north threatened Oyo's borders and disrupted trade routes. Overextension. Oyo's vast territory became difficult to control, and rebellious vassals began breaking away. By the mid-19th century, the once mighty Oyo Empire had fragmented, leaving behind smaller Yoruba states, yet its legacy remained strong, shaping Yoruba identity and political culture for generations. The Alaafin's legacy. Despite its fall, the Oyo Empire left behind a profound legacy. Its system of governance, with a powerful king balanced by a council of nobles, inspired later political structures. Its cultural achievements enriched Yoruba tradition, influencing art, religion, and social organization. Even today, the title of Alaafin remains respected in Nigeria, a reminder of the empire's glory. Festivals, oral histories, and traditions keep alive the memory of the Oyo Empire's golden age. Closing reflections, the story of the Oyo Empire is one of rise, power, and eventual fall. But more than that, it is a story of balance between kingship and accountability, between expansion and stability, between wealth and responsibility. The Alaafin of Oyo stood as both a divine figure and a political leader, embodying the complexity of African governance. His power was immense, but it was never absolute. He ruled within a framework that ensured accountability and stability, an achievement that many empires across the world struggled to maintain. Today, the story of the Oyo Empire reminds us of the richness of African history. It shows us that Africa was not a passive land waiting for outsiders to shape it, but a continent of empires, kings, warriors, and visionaries, who built systems of governance and culture that still inspire us. The Oyo Empire may have fallen, but its story endures etched in the memory of the Yoruba people and in the history of the world.